Salam and welcome to the Junior Designer Senior Interviews podcast. This is the podcast where I'll be talking to you about graphic design life here in Algeria. This is your host, Reem Rabah, and this is the show's first ever episode in the Algerian Black Pearl studio here in Deshell School. Stick around because in this show we're going to be talking about different topics including graphic design. We're going to be talking about the struggles of graphic designers, up and downs, graphic design myths, toxic bosses, toxic colleagues, workspaces, how to get in the field, and what makes a good graphic designer. Stick around. So without further ado, let's do this. As I mentioned before, my name is Reem Rabah. I've been in the graphic design industry for the past 2.5 years. So I'm pretty new in this domain, hence the name of the podcast, Junior Designer. I'm your junior designer. How I stumbled upon graphic design was exactly that. I stumbled on it. I used to be a biology student in university, USDHB to be more exact. I used to study there and I dropped out. Funny story, but not so funny. I dropped out and I had 2 months break where I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I like? What I don't like? And I stumbled upon graphic design as a field, and I saw many brochures, I saw many schools, I saw many podcasts talking about how to start in graphic design. But the mistake I made was I followed graphic designers that were foreigners. I did not look up any graphic designers in Algeria. That was a huge mistake. But when I tried to look, I found an entirely different world. I'm not shaming anyone. I know there are really good, brilliant designers there, and you're gonna see some of them if you stick around to the end of this podcast. So, how I got started. I got started when a family member decided to suggest, why don't you go into something graphic, something design related? Since they know I like colors, I like papers, I like designing stuff, I like publicity. So I looked up in Facebook, of course, schools that teach graphic design here in Algeria. I came upon the school I study at currently. It's a school, it's agréé par l'État, it's in Boimorad Rais. It's a pretty decent school, but we'll get to that later. I first got a job. Well, not really a job because it was not paid and it was kind of boring. But let's talk about that. My first job was in a printing house with what was an all-female printing house. And I got there, I sat down, because one of the things you have to have before you go to the school that I study at in Boimorad Rais, in Isiaq by the way, is you need to have a contract that you're currently working in a studio or in a firm or in a boîte de communication. So I went to this place. It seemed decent. It seemed really awesome. And I really liked it at first because I could see the machines. I saw how, books were made. How can I make publicity for someone? Branding this, branding that. It was pretty fun. It was really pretty fun. But then I discovered that I started to see a lot of, how do I say this? I'm not going to say they were different because the bases were there. Les bases كانوا تمام. بصح the creativity, the out of the box kind of mentality ما كانش كاينة. Because when I used to see people like Chris Doe, The Future, like how they brand, how they make logos, how they how they care about their clients. Sadly, you do not see that, and I did not see that, and I struggled finding a mentor. I struggled actually convincing my boss at the time to show me stuff, tricks and stuff. But then I discovered that the tricks they knew were so old. Makesh trends, they don't follow up on what's going on right now. They don't follow up on what's coming next year. They just stayed really want to say this. They stayed in the 80s. I mean, ما كاش جديد. قعدوا في ليماج تاع بكري تاع I learned to do it this way, I'm just gonna continue doing it this way. In other scenarios where it was not my boss, it was like there was a boss and then there was وحدة just تحتها she thinks she's the boss when the boss leaves the room. So I'm not throwing shade, but I am. Anyways, so yeah, one day I came up and I was like, okay, I really want to learn how to make a logo or a business card at least. Like that's وأبسط عفسة you can make as a graphic designer. And I was like, okay, can you like give me tricks, dimensions of the what paper should I use, the great dimensions, where do I put the logo, any suggestions, how do I make the color palette, When I told her about first of all, the first shock was كي قلت لها the color palette. She was like, وش من color palette؟ قاعد يجوك حولها جو بيوضة وكتب فيهم بلك حاجة. And I was like, okay, so قاعد standard, okay. Anyways, ومن بعدها she was like, the logo سهلة. We just go to free pick and type something like that واللي تخرج لصقوها and then we put the name tag, the brand ولا the client من تحتها. So I felt like that really killed the creativity اللي كنت في الأول حسيتها in the workspace. And it was pretty sad, to be honest. Because this field is based on creativity, based on colors, based on having fun, basically. بصح when I was in the field كنت نشوف the exact opposite. And I felt in the field يعني I felt lonely because قاعد اللي كنت نقرا معاهم, some of them were really like having really nice bosses. Well, ماشي قايتك, but still they had nice bosses. They were bragging, well, not bragging, but you know, talking about like, oh, my boss made me do this, البارح درت هادي, البارح عاونتهم درت logo. And I was like, oh, I made a mistake. Fast forward 2-3 months into my job, of course, Algerian workspace, بداو لي في problem. Then they escalated pretty quickly, and they become like really workspace problems. Like I started seeing, how do I say this? I'm not in the field. I don't want to be in this field anymore. Because why? And I'm asking this to the bosses out there اللي يخدموا في graphic design ولا اللي بوات communication. Why some of you, like, why do you guys lie to your clients? Like, I saw this firsthand. Why do you guys tell your clients, oh, I've spent hours on hours on hours on this logo to make you, I don't know, maybe 10 millions or stuff like that. But you're actually lying. You just went to seats that there's templates and you just did like copy paste. That's like really hypocritical out there, I find it. But yeah, so the Hadia is one of the first struggles I faced in this field, is that I found a lot of hypocrisy. My bosses used to like, but even when I used to go to other places, other firms, and I see how some bosses like speak to the junior designers, اللي جاو جدد, or the one they have trainings, they, let's say, like we say in Arabic, يحقرونا. So they don't listen to us. I'm not telling you to give us, I'm not telling you to give us the project. واحد غير يدخل منا, you just give him a project, you just go with it. لا. But at least like listen to the new generation. And I feel, and no shade, Rona, no shade. I feel that the older generation, especially in the graphic design community, يجيهم ثقيلة to listen to our suggestions. Let's face it, now we're into technology. احنا لما نشوفوا the trends, we're following them. Even if we don't look for them, we still see them. على بالنا exactly what's going on, what's trendy, what's not, what's working right now. So when I give you like an opinion, like these colors are not used since like 1800s, the least you can do is like acknowledge my opinion, but not I feel like they يردموهم. So so you need to put your voice out there if you want to be if you're new to being a graphic designer. Now let's talk about my first time quitting a job. Well, it was not a job, to be honest. It was like how do they say this? Like training or whatever that was, but it was not even a training. I don't know what it was. Essentially, I quitted it. The first struggle I had in that job was that I was not being taught anything. I felt like I was just going to the office and being, like they say in Arabic, يحرت عليا, to be honest, because it was a female. I go there and I watch this. The only thing that I liked was I was able to see the machines and the printers and how the paper goes out, how it goes in, the right paper for the right article, for the right products. It was fun. That part was fun. But the other parts were like really questioned upon. So I was going to the office one day, and as you do, you just go in and you ask your boss, what can I do today? And you just, you find yourself roaming around the office trying to make, yourself useful. So I went in, and that day, I think, I remember, we were making books. It was the last batch of books. كانت period تاع سيلا 2019. We were making books for this publishing house, and it was the last 2 days to be exact. So the stress was way lower, because the week was hectic and we had to like make 100 copies of one book in less than 2 to 3 hours, and that was really hectic. So that day was a little bit less stressful. The office was empty. I was there first. The boss was not around. There was the other person اللي جاية تحت, the boss. So and of course هنا في الجزائر sadly كيما يقولش the boss هذاك اللي يكون دايما تحته, it's like he feels like I own the place, and especially if there are junior people inside. I'm not trying to, how do I say this? I'm not trying to make anyone like feel guilty or something, but come on, she did see me as a threat to her job, because she was getting a maternity leave, I think, and the boss hinted to her that, since you're getting a maternity leave, you're gonna stay for a year, 2 years maybe out, so just teach the new kid, which is me, just teach the new kid everything you know, so when you get the maternity leave, she's gonna take your job. First strike of the boss, that she did not have to say that to her, because that when the problem started. So now this fake boss, secondary boss, let's call her a secondary boss, that's where she started seeing me as a threat. She started making fake problems, saying that I'm not useful enough in the office, even though let's come on. I used to like carry boxes upon boxes of paper for you. Do you know how heavy that is? The whole batch, it's really heavy. Anyways, so that was the first heckle in my life as a graphic designer. But when I left, and thank God I did, I finally got okay, that's it, I'm not even learning anything graphic design related. I left. But what did I do after? There was a problem at the office. How did I got to? Well, when you ask them, they'll tell you how's Naha, but no, I quit. I told you, like, I'm leaving. Like, how did you house Tini when I told you I'm leaving? Anyways, so a week before this problem happened, I have one person behind the camera laughing right now. Anyways, so how this happened, a week before this problem happened, before I was suddenly useless in the office, Sarat, they came to the office, Hadiat, fake boss, and her sister, since bien sûr, she works, of course, her sister works with us, so I was stuck between two sisters. So before a week had that, they came in the office and they were like super angry, and I was like, okay, what happened? And she was like, wait for the boss to hear this. Jet the boss. She was like, can you imagine who had the audacity to open an office an office just in our area? She was like, the boss was like, oh my god, who? And she was like, this and this, two guys. And the office just went crazy. Like they were talking, saying stuff like, how dare they, this is our area, محبين يسرقوا لنا لي كليون بصح هو شي يربحوا, you know, Algerian stuff. ومن بعدها I was like, I'm curious. But I was like, why are you guys upset that these two guys opened an office in your area? By the way, it was not in the area. The office I used to work in كان في باب الزوار. وهما وين كانوا كان في المول تاع المحمدية. So that's still بعيدة شوية considerably. ما عليناش. I was like, I was intrigued. I was like, what's the big deal about these guys? I mean, there's like 5-6 other offices right next to us. هذوما they're like بعاد شوية. And the secondary boss, she was like, I taught them everything they know. So now they're gonna use my techniques and get clients out of my back. And I was like, that was the first time I talked to her like this. I think this is part of the reason why she was like mad at me. She did that and she did their problem. I was like, then why are you upset? If they are your techniques, they're not gonna go that far. And she was like, and I was like, oh, did I say that out loud? Anyways, I promise you, والله ما تحاوشت, I quit. Anyways, so the name of those two guys stuck with me. وقعد لي وين يخدموا. Generally, I don't remember names at all. ما نشفى الأسماوات, ما نشفى where I heard them. Fast forward that week, right after I left, I quit my job. كنت في الترامواي. I go home by tram. I was like, wait a minute, I remember those two guys. Same tramway اللي I rode after I left, I quit my job. كملت به حتى لاري تاع طماغيس وين كاين المول تاع محمدية. I got off, رحت للمول. I looked for these two guys and I was like, do you guys have an office? So like, yes, we just opened a month ago. And then they were like, we're actually looking for a trainee, we just opened a month ago. And I went to them and I was like, can you guys do me a favor? I need this contract for my school and I really need it. Like I need واحد يسيني لي so I can go to school and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. And they went inside and they were like doing an interview. Like, where did you work before? Do you have any work experience? What did you do? And I was like, I worked before. And they were like, where? I was like, in Bab Zawar. And they were like, where exactly in Bab Zawar? And I gave them the name of my ex-boss. And they both burst out laughing and they stopped the interview. And they both of them just signed me in. They had like 1 month since they opened the office. They both signed me in and they were like, you're in, you're our kid from now on. And everything I know in graphic design, every idea, everything I learned was to those two guys, which I gave a shout out to, Yusuf and Amin. If you guys ever hear this, thank you. You guys were a really good mentor, both of you. So that's it for today's episode. Make sure to join our social media platforms, groups if you haven't already, and I will break down this episode and future episodes right there. Also, thank you so much for Algerian Black Pearl and Deshell School for giving us the studio, for giving us the time and the training. They were amazing. They were literally amazing. Thank you for listening to the podcast today. This is all for today's episode. But before I leave you, show some love for your favorite podcast by leaving a review on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast, and much more. And make sure to hit play on the Youth Talks program, other speakers. You're gonna find a lot of interesting topics and with a lot of interesting people. You have gaming topics, you have fantasy books, you have music, you have everything. You have freelancing, hustle life, women in tech. It's gonna be amazing. So I guarantee you will enjoy the interesting topics. Till next time, thank you so much. This was Reem Rabah. I'll see you till next time.